Crowhill here. Today we review a porter and discuss the rise of the Merlin.
Well,
Pigweed. Good to see you.
Good evening, Crowhill.
All right.
How about some beer and conversation?
That's a great idea. What are we drinking?
This is a porter.
Okay, fantastic. I love porters.
I do too.
Okay.
So what's on your mind?
Well, the Daily Wire recently came out with a adaptation of a novel that I read a long, long time ago.
Okay.
The Rise of the Merlin. That's the Pendragon Cycle by a guy named Stephen Lawhead.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. And I want to talk about that, but I also just want to talk about, Merlin and Arthur and all that kind of
Sounds
stuff.
fun.
Yeah. All right. So Blackbeard's Breakfast.
Yes, this seems like a medieval kind of a beard. Talking about old school stuff here. And it is from our local boys down the road, Heavy Seas.
Yes, Heavy Seas. All
and
right.
when they say robust, they mean robust.
They mean robust.
I have a robust one over here, and I think of robust as 7.
Yeah, this is 10.
This is 10, and it's also got some other features.
Yes. So porter brewed with coffee and aged in bourbon barrels. So this is a serious beer.
Yes, I'm definitely. Now there are grains that very dark burnt grains.
Yeah.
That can give you coffee flavor.
Yes.
This actually tastes like it's got some coffee.
That sounds like it
coffee.
does. Yeah. It does. It does taste a bit like. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of actual coffee flavor in here.
Now, but I'm not getting tastes of actual bourbon.
No.
But not necessarily. You're not always going to get that because they didn't put bourbon in there. It's
in a bourbon barrel.
Bourbon barrel.
Yeah. So I'm definitely getting the coffee flavor. I'm definitely getting that this is strong.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing that you drink Christmas Eve before you go to sleep or something.
It's got nice wintry notes. Tastes
or
strong.
This is also the beer you drink after you've been sleeping in 0-degree weather in a cabin out in the mountains, and you wake up in the morning and you're freezing, and this would actually be good at that point. Done that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
hold on, Mister.
Yeah.
You want to tell? This is all about the origin story of Merlin.
Yeah.
Let's just back it up a little bit.
Okay.
And let's do the origin story of the Arthurian legend.
Right.
Because I feel like it's just so part of Western culture that I don't really know the history of it. Like, well, who was the first writer of Arthur, and how did we get here?
Yeah.
Where we got all the way up to, Disney.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't we start with just the kind of the possible historical origins, if there are any historical origins, right? So you have.
Well, so make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. So it's King Arthur. So the name, even if you don't know the stories, which I don't actually, you'll know these things. You'll know King Arthur. There's a Lancelot.
Yeah.
There's
Guinevere.
There's a little relationship going on there.
And then there's Morgan and Morgan Le Fay, and there's Mordred, and there's Merlin. So
there's a round table. Yeah. There's a sword, and there's a stone.
Right.
There's a grail, and
right.
So this is all of those things probably sound familiar, and I'm not sure if you know what the origins are, but
that's kind of all the stuff in the soup there.
Right.
And so the context is that the Romans went to Britain, and they established Roman civilization in Britain for
400 or 500 years.
Yeah, for 400 or 500 years. But then they had to draw back, and when they left a power vacuum there, and that you had remnants of Roman civilized society going on there.
Yeah, there's centuries of Romanization going on.
Right, exactly. But then you have all these screaming barbarians who want to come in and steal all that stuff. Right. So
they built the Hadrian Wall to keep the Scots out, the Picts out,
yes.
And Romanize the South, and so there's a little bit of chaos.
Yes, and there's always been chaos, and I mean there's been successive invasions of England by different peoples, and so here we have this time where the Roman armies are gone, and like the Saxons are invading.
Yes.
And apparently there was some great warlord who fought back against the Saxons and pushed them back. So that's kind of the possible historical roots of the whole thing.
And the setting of the whole King
Arthur
business.
Which is funny, because if you picture what things would look like in 5th century Britain,
right.
They look nothing like the movie Excalibur. You know, they didn't have plate armor and all that kind of stuff, you know. So a lot of the things that we associate with that, it's not medieval, it's not Robin Hood,
So it's set in 4th, 5th century, but our first sources come much later. Well,
actually, some of the sources are apparently very old. Like, there were Welsh tales about this Arthur guy, and they get included in something called the Mabinogion. And there are other early poems, Welsh poems, and things about some guy named Arthur
that were closer to the time.
Yeah, closer to the time, but not so close to what we think of as King Arthur. So yeah, Geoffrey of Monmouth was one of the really early sources. He was a monk or something. And
right. So I have the history of the kings of Britain that was written in Latin, roughly early 1100s.
Right, and wasn't it partly to try to justify a king like this, to try to tie a king at that time back to the Arthur legend,
to establish some legitimacy.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So with Geoffrey, you have the king, you have Merlin the prophet, you have Guinevere, who's not central, and there's no Lancelot. Lancelot comes a lot later. Lancelot is the French insertion here.
Oh, wait a minute. I see the guy who comes in and tries to steal your wife.
He's the French guy.
The French guy. Makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, and the French added a whole bunch of other stuff. So you have Geoffrey of Monmouth, and then you have the French romances pick up the story.
Yeah, my French pronunciations aren't that great.
Okay. Chrétien de Troyes. Yeah.
So French romantic poets wrote about, used this chivalric.
Yeah. So they introduced Lancelot, and they introduced the concept of courtly love, and there's a lot. I've read some interesting essays about courtly love.
Yeah, go ahead.
That some people think that the whole concept of courtly love was an attempt by the church to kind of rein in the barbaric nature of the warlord, battle-tested knight kind of a guy.
Well, I think the concept of chivalry, which comes from chevalier, which really just means like skilled horse rider,
right? Exactly.
Right?
It just means sort of cavalry. Yeah.
But it turned into this idea of. Yes, I think the chivalry was to say, all right, it's not just about kicking ass. You also need to be a gentleman, and But my understanding of courtly love was it was the beginning of love that did not necessarily have political or arranged purposes. It's not before they. I mean,
true love.
Even poor people. Even poor people were marrying their daughters strategically.
Yes.
There's a guy over in the next town, and we're both poor, but I can at least get a couple of goats out of this thing. And you're right. And so this was the idea of you actually love somebody because you love somebody.
Yeah, I think that is a strong element of it. Is this idea of there's arranged marriages and there's the important political marriages and economic marriages and,
then you
all
just
that.
Love for
and
the
then
sake
you just
of
love
love
them because she walked by wearing that dress.
Idea that this would be basically a new idea. I'm starting to think. I don't know. Of
course, it's not a new idea.
I was like, well, the idea that most marriages had been arranged. Yeah, probably, right? Yeah. I mean, like, mostly you're just not that people aren't just falling in love. Not that love was invented by the French in the 14th century, but that you would make a big deal about.
Well, I mean, remember that King David saw Bathsheba from his rooftop, and so that was like an early example of courtly love there. So, I mean, the idea of men being attracted to women and vice versa has been around for quite a long time, totally independent of arranged marriages and that sort of thing. So the conflict or contrast or whatever between like marrying for position, for economic success, all that, and having the hots for somebody, that's been around for forever.
Right, but I think that to celebrating, romantic love.
Yeah.
is a big part of this chivalric tradition.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So you have the French influence, and then you have Malory, who kind of blends Geoffrey of Monmouth with the French Romantic tradition, and so now we've got the French Romantic tradition introduced Lancelot, introduced adultery, introduced the Grail.
Okay. That's what, Lancelot came from the French.
Lancelot is the greatest knight, the idea of this great knight. So then in Malory, you're bringing it all together, and you're making Arthur the good king, but he can't control the kind of, there's this sense of destiny that weakness and temptation is going to undermine everything eventually. The king can't.
Isn't Guinevere the queen?
Yeah.
And the love interest of Lancelot?
Yes.
That's kind of risque.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and, in a lot of ways, Arthur comes across as almost lacking passion. Like he didn't even marry Guinevere because he was particularly interested in her. He just he needed a queen, and, he married this queen. And
I see, but the Lancelot, that is... That's genuine romance.
I'm not sure that Arthur and Guinevere ever even have a kid. So you don't get a real lovey-dovey concept between Arthur and Guinevere. It's just, okay, we're married.
When him being like the icon, the epitome of knighthood, is he because he embodies all the chivalric traits, or his prowess on the battlefield?
I think it's his prowess on the battlefield that he's the greatest knight.
Oh, okay.
But also, if you take this French part of things, he's the greatest knight, but he's also the greatest lover. Right. He's the combination of all these different things.
Treats women correctly, protects them, and all their aspects of manhood and
right. Yeah. So Malory brings all this stuff together. And then we have the Victorian era.
Hold on, just for Malory. Let me just get back it up. So first off, he's writing this from prison.
Yes, isn't that so weird? So supposedly he's under house arrest in a place that has a good library. It's not prison shackled to the wall.
It's more like
it's not
more
chasing the rats away, but
right.
Yeah.
But so historically, the political tone of the King Arthur time matches his time, the 1400s. This is the War of the Roses.
Right.
So this is when you have the Lancasters and the Yorks.
Yeah.
You have kings going back and forth. So it's a destabilized period. And King Arthur, he's trying to bring order.
Yes.
So you can see that, he's kind of mapping some of that on there. And for you Game of Thrones kids out there, so this is the Lancasters and the Yorks, which might sound like the Lannisters and the Starks.
Might sound like that.
Not coincidental. So anyway, I think just the environment that he's taking this tradition that is a couple hundred years old.
Yeah.
And mapping on a little bit of the current.
Right, sure. Because you have to make it relevant to your time and everything else.
We all want guys, we just want some stability around here. And
And Malory was apparently a pretty interesting character.
He was kind of a rogue and, cattle rustler and whatever else he got.
Whatever else got him other things got him in trouble. That's right. So then in the Victorian era, we had the whole story got reinterpreted as a more of a moral interpretation. Arthur is the moral ruler. Merlin is has the imagination and the instinct. Lancelot is noble but sinful. But it's the basic message is moral failure destroys civilization.
Yeah.
That it's a morality tale that the reason things failed under King Arthur was because of moral failings.
But I think so you're talking about Victorian times, right?
Yeah.
But it kind of had fallen out of favor. So it wasn't, right? So it was a big deal in Malory, or like I said, the 1400s. And for who knows how long. But it dipped and was revived,
yes.
I think, by the Victorians, which we're talking about late 19th century, and then 20th century. I mean, we get all the way up to Disney's Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really had a nice revival. It's still pretty hot now.
I know. I mean, there seems to be an Arthur movie every 20 years or something.
There was there was a mouse named... who took on the well, I don't know if it was Disney, but somebody else did an animated thing where Arthur is a mouse. But the storyline is alive and well.
Yes. Yeah. So what's going on? Are we ready to talk about the show?
Right. Yeah. Right. So now, everybody, once Marvel runs out of things to talk about. Yeah. They say, "Oh, origin story."
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go backwards. I'm not accusing them of this, but because the Pendragon guy. Yeah. But it's like, so where did it come from? This Atlantis business. Right. Is that completely from our guy? What's his name?
Stephen Lawhead.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's completely from Stephen Lawhead because there's this book that did you see the movie Conspiracy Theory? Mel Gibson, Conspiracy Theory. No. And he has this strange compulsion to read some book. I can't remember the book. And he would just get really nervous and have to go buy that book and read that book. Okay. That's sort of the way I am with this book. Okay. I've read this book, I don't know how many times. I really don't know. I'm like 10, 12.
Really?
Yeah.
My God.
All right. So in this book, this is called That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis. He's talking about...
That book is barely hanging on. I'm going to buy you a new copy.
This is my second version. My old version was so ratty I had to throw it away. So this is the second one. All right. So during lunch, Dr. Dimble talked about the Arthurian legend. It's really wonderful, he said, how the whole thing hangs together, even in the late versions like Malory. You've noticed how there are two sets of characters. There's Guinevere and Lancelot and all those people in the center, all very courtly and nothing particularly British about them. But then in the background, on the other side of Arthur, so to speak, there are all those dark people like Morgan and Morgoth who are very British indeed and usually more or less hostile, though they are his own relatives. Mixed up with magic. You remember that wonderful phrase, how Queen Morgan set all the country on fire with ladies that were enchantresses. Merlin, too, of course, is British. They're not hostile. Doesn't it look like a picture of Britain as it must have been on the eve of the invasion? So anyway, this idea of, I think Lawhead draws from Lewis a little bit in his reinterpretation of the whole story.
So in this, so now we're talking about the Daily Wire's, the Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin.
Right.
And it starts with people in Roman gear, in what looks to be like a gladiator setting. Yeah. And it just seems very, very unlike dark, dismal Britain in the 5th century. It's very
Atlantean.
Yes.
You get the impression that this and as I recall, because I read these books a long time ago, as I recall, the bull riders were like in Atlantis, they were the top.
There's like a bull god.
Yeah. And the bull riders were sort of very highly regarded as people who were able to do this quasi-magic, just athletic performance. Okay. And so that's what we see in the beginning. And then we see the fall of Atlantis, like some natural disaster occurs and the whole thing is collapsing.
Right. In the middle of it, an earthquake sort of splits open it seems like that there's an offense to the bull god. Right. And then the earth cracks, and then the next scene is you're in England.
Yeah. So that
it wraps it all up.
I think the idea is the people escaping from Atlantis, landing in England, and establishing sort of a fairy kingdom in England.
Exactly. And then you're like, first off, I'm like, it says 20 years later, and the Princess Charis, I'm like, she kind of looks the same. I mean, almost like there's a problem with the continuity in the production of the show. Then you're like, oh, I get it.
They live a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very similar to Tolkien with the fall of Numenor and the Numenorians landing in Middle-earth and establishing Gondor and all that kind of stuff. It's a similar kind of a pattern. So you have this idea of these long-lived, blessed, smart, technologically advanced people who then come in and
so two ships escape. So this, I guess, it's in the middle of the Mediterranean or whatever, like the Atlantean legend. Mm-hmm. And there's an earthquake or a volcano eruption or whatever, and Atlantis sinks to the bottom. Mm-hmm. But this reinterpretation, which means everybody's gone. In this, you get two ships escape.
Yeah.
They end up on the shores of England.
Right.
Establish this community, and not talisman, what's it called?
Taliesin.
Right. So he's a singing bard.
Yeah.
Actually, he's just scooped up. No, he comes down the river like Moses.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't even know where he comes from.
Right.
And I'm thinking this is the future Merlin. Mm-hmm.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. And so what happens? He actually is the father.
The father
becomes
of
the
Merlin.
father of Merlin.
And Merlin is named after Merlin the bird, the hawk. Because he has eyes like a Merlin.
Yes. Do you think that's CGI that gives him? He has these amber irises.
I think they just put
or
fake contacts.
Or do you think it's contacts?
Yeah, I think it's contacts.
But anyway, it's cool and it's easy to identify. That's
right. Yeah, you can always tell him.
That's Merlin.
Yeah.
And so this is part of his origin story. So is that so? There's the Atlantean community.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of rival kingdoms.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the blue-skinned Picts from the north.
Yeah.
And really, it's just...
And there's the remnant of Roman rule also. So,
right, you got Aurelius and those guys.
Yes.
And now you've got the Saxons coming over
who
can take out anybody individually. But, if we can all bring this thing together, then we can fight off the Saxons.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see, even in the early parts of the show, like Arthur is nowhere even close to being near.
I'm like, where?
Yeah.
Where
Arthur's 100 years away. And but they're already starting to say, we need to unify against the Saxons to repel the invaders.
We don't have any waiting for the guy to rally around.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so, and I think it's very well done. A lot of people aren't going to watch it because it's Daily Wire, and that gets in the way.
But I would say if you are, this is a positive and negative, if you are inclined towards the medieval story and, your Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings kind of a guy, is your thing. However, in the beginning, it clearly does not have the production budget. Mm-hmm. Of either of those two. Mm-hmm. But you know what? The last two, I thought with the battle scenes, I thought that was top shelf. I didn't think that it was lacking anything.
I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
One thing that surprised me a little bit was it was a little bit racier than I expected from the Daily Wire. Like not Hollywood racy.
No, not Hollywood racy.
But just like I expected it to be a touch more subdued on the plunging neckline.
Neckline. But anyway, there's actually they're kind of flat chested.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't that risky.
Wasn't that risky.
So there's the sweeping scenery shots, and then at the end, I'm watching, the credits roll.
Right.
And lots of weird names with weird accents on them. What is going on here?
Who are these people?
Hungary.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was shot in Hungary.
Yeah, right.
And I guess that's the production crew that was there. And then a lot of the castles and monasteries and whatever, that stuff was shot in Italy. But anyway, it's not a back lot in Hollywood.
Right.
I mean,
they went on location. They spent a lot of money on this. Yeah. And who's the guy, the guy who used to be a big Daily Wire guy, and he retired from the news politics side of things to do this kind of thing, to do
Jeremy Boring.
Jeremy Boring. That's the guy.
I just read yesterday. It's like, it's been a year since I left Daily Wire. I'm like, what? I thought you were the CEO.
I know. No, he's been focusing full time on making this show because that's really his passion. I remember listening to some interviews with him from a couple of years ago where he just really loves acting and movies and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
So,
and also the belief that you have to take back the culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what he was. You know, he was.
That's what he wants to do.
He was actually the star of Lady Ballers, and I saw in the credits. Sometimes it was Jeremy Boring and somebody else, and sometimes written by Jeremy Boring.
Right,
he wrote the whole. I mean, based on the book, of course,
right.
but that he actually wrote the dialogue. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's
so it's an interesting show, and if you like Game of Thrones and that kind of thing, give it a
sword
try.
Stuff.
Yeah,
and everybody knows the King Arthur business. Well, this is pre-King Arthur,
right?
Well, actually, at the very end, right? So they're fighting. There's Aurelius, who's a very very Romanesque figure, and they're trying to unify, and they kind of bend the knee, right?
Yeah, yeah. And did they mention Uther? I think that maybe they mentioned Uther.
It's
because Uther is Arthur's father.
All right, I think there are references, but I don't remember Uther figure.
Okay, I'm not quite clear on that. But anyway, so eventually we're going to get Uther and we're going to get Arthur, and then we get into the full Arthur story.
Right. So that's why. So, but the Atlantean link is why Merlin is around for so long.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
Why is he around for generations?
No, that's right.
All right, I get it. Which is, I think that's a great way to explain
do it. Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
So I guess we're done. Are we done here?
I kind of want to explore a little bit why this story resonates so well, why it keeps coming back, why it keeps getting reimagined, reinvented. I think there's some underlying structural things about this story. Kind of some
give it some legs.
Give it some legs. Some archetypal kind of things going on. Yeah. So if you think of Arthur as sort of the representation of order, and sort of left brain, logical, thinking, but also warrior. And then you think of Merlin as the sort of intuitive, the magical, so you've got these things going on there that are interesting things that play off one another. So you have intuition and you have politics,
Right.
And then England, in a way, has sort of a legacy of a tension between these things. When you think of England, you think of the kings and queens of England, but you also think of the witches, and the spiritualism and other kinds of weird and spooky stuff going on. I think both those things kind of typify England, and they typify this story.
And maybe, are you suggesting that the story would not get the legs like Arthur by himself or Merlin by himself?
Exactly.
Like it's
That's
the
right.
playoff of
That's right. Yeah. Because it's playing on these archetypal concepts,
duality,
these battles between different things. And if we were to make it really, really modern, we could say sort of like AI is Arthur and humans are Merlin.
Oh, you're really bringing it up.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up
2026.
I'm bringing it up to yesterday. That's
much.
So, AI is the left brain thinking, calculating side of things, and Merlin, or what humans had better quickly learn, are the intuition side.
Yes, and that hopefully, and yes, the other you're just saying quickly need to learn that we do have some value. I mean, we're worth. Otherwise, it's going to be all Arthurs and no Merlins.
If we can't figure out what our value is, we're toast. Yeah, that's right. So you have those are the things that really stood out to me. But then there's a bunch of other things going on. You've got the Lancelot Guinevere thing. Yeah. You've got the adultery. You've got the greatest knight in the world, who is fiercely, totally loyal to the king, but is banging his wife.
I know. I'm kind of surprised that didn't tarnish Lancelot as an admirable figure.
Right. Well, some versions of the story just have it as a platonic love and nothing ever happens.
Okay. Like and some reads her poems and holds her hand.
And some versions of the story just kind of leave it, well, you can interpret how you want,
I see.
Right? I mean, Excalibur makes it pretty explicit.
Is that so?
Did you see the movie Excalibur?
No.
Oh, you got it. You got to see it. You got to see Excalibur.
How recent?
Like
an oldie,
70s.
Okay.
70s. It's really, really good. It's kind of crazy, but it's really good.
Anybody I would know that is this Sean Connery or anybody like that?
No, I don't think so. I think Patrick Stewart makes an appearance in there, but I can't remember any other great
note
artists.
To self?
Yeah. Right. So I guess what I'm seeing in this story is the reason it has so many legs is it's the uniting everybody against the crazy foreign foe. It's
you can't get enough of that.
Right, can't get enough of that. It's the your sins will catch up with you and ruin everything. Right? That's a definite part of it.
But I mean in terms of who's the
Arthur ends up sinning in most versions of the story, and he causes the downfall of the whole kingdom because he there's different.
Does it not end with and Arthur established a kingdom that will last forever and ever and happily ever after?
No.
I'm not really sure. I don't really know that story.
No. So Morgan is his foe, and Mordred is his foe, and Mordred is, in some interpretations of it, his own son that he had with his sister.
Okay. So there's transgressions that come back to haunt you.
So, there's also another element that we've hardly even mentioned is the whole Holy Grail side of it. Which it used to really bug me. What in the world is the Holy Grail doing in England? But here's the origin of that.
It's not as crazy as you think?
It's not as crazy as you think. Because Joseph of Arimathea supposedly went to England as a missionary.
I mean, the guy who was present at the...
Well, he wasn't present at the Last Supper, but he was... Joseph of Arimathea
was present at the grave.
Yeah.
The stone rolling.
Yeah, all that stuff. So he's very, very closely associated with the absolute earliest origins of the Christian church. And
there's word that he actually made its way all the way to England?
He went to... the apostles went all over the place.
Yeah.
Thomas went to India. I mean, they went all over the place. So supposedly Joseph of Arimathea went to England.
Yeah.
Absolutely risky business. So the idea that he might have brought along the Grail isn't
crazy.
Totally crazy. No, I'm not saying that he did or anything like that.
But it helps the story.
Yes, sure. It does help the story. Yeah. So anyway, I see elements in this story that are touching on deep psychological, archetypal images, and that's why it keeps coming back.
Well, it's always that. I mean, how many just local folklore tales catch fire and they don't catch fire? The ones that catch fire and get legs are the ones that reach something deeper than just a little story about something.
Exactly.
It touches on the human condition in some way.
That's right. I was talking with somebody one time about, he was saying, what is literature?
Yeah.
Starts with L-I and ends with E.
Right.
That literature, he was trying to say that literature is lying. It's a lie.
Oh, right.
And that stories need to be true. And I was like, what? Like, a true story would be so boring. Like, if you were to take something the way it actually happens and tell the actual details of somebody's life, that would be boring. You can't do that.
There's a quote from Pablo Picasso that says, "Art is a lie that leads to the truth."
There you go.
And
I like that.
That's something like that
yes,
going on.
It is. And the idea is you're drawing on something that really engages you. It engages your imagination. It engages your moral sense. It engages, these deep fears and other things. And I think that's what the Arthur story does. And I say, I'm loving this. What is it called? Rise of the Merlin. Pendragon Cycle.
The Merlin implies that I thought that what they were going to say was it was a title or it meant magician or something.
Yeah.
And then we just got to know it as a name. But I didn't really get that from the
It's kind of weird.
But,
yeah. I think that is his name. Anyway, it's good. It's interesting. But the whole Arthur legend and everything, you can go deep, deep, deep into that.
I always thought... So I mix up all of my medieval... I'm going... Does this have to do with the Crusades? Are they going to go to Sherwood Forest? All right. I'm like, all right, it's like 600 years apart or something.
Yeah. Yes. That's very, very different.
Yeah, there's no Robin Hoods going on.
There's no Robin Hoods.
But if you dig that kind of thing, this might fall into your wheelhouse.
Yes. Well, I mean, in a sense, the Robin Hood story is... You're fighting against the invading people, except that time it's the Normans, not the Saxons.
Oh, okay,
so, yeah. All right. Anyway, watch the show. It's good.
Yeah, good times.
All right. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.